long and prosperous.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Shut up and take my money.
By Grabthar's hammer. What a saving.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
X never, ever marks the spot.
Winter is coming. You're a wizard, Harry.
Stay a while and listen.
Hey, old Kermit the Frog.
Your ties are cool.
So say we all.
This is a Play on Nerds.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, to a Play on Nerds, episode 189. I'm Steve, one of the co-hosts.
And I'm Jarman, the other co-host.
That's the other guy. We're here to co-host the hell out of this.
Yeah, we are.
And this week, in honor of the smash hit Winnie the Pooh and its now coming sequel, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2.
The horror master. Here's the thing. I saw it. Despite the fact that the premise is ridiculous, it's a pretty good horror movie. Pretty creepy, pretty bloody.
Oh yeah, like they did a pretty good job, and it's built well. It has all the good tenets. It's just the premise is a little bit ridiculous, but it's well made.
And on a very small budget too.
So we're going to bring you another just beloved children's classic about a toy come to life and just seeking sweet, sweet vengeance on all those around it. And of course, we're talking about that classic, Pinocchio's Revenge.
A movie from 1996, I believe, that was so good that you can't find it anywhere online. And I have to tell you, Steve, even before we get started, that I was trying to watch the YouTube version. The whole movie is on YouTube, folks. You can watch it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It was just so low quality that I just went ahead and rented it.
Couldn't do it.
I rented it on Amazon Prime.
Gave someone money for this.
I paid $3.99, and then I realized it wasn't attached to my account. So it was so funny. My wife comes home and she goes, because she's recently had her credit cards hacked into a couple times. And she's like, oh, God, Jarman, you didn't happen to watch something called Pinocchio's Revenge. And I was like, yes, I did.
I did. Sorry.
So, yeah, I was like, that was me. I watched it for the podcast. Yeah, that's why I rented that. I paid money to watch
Julie,
it.
don't worry. I'm as ashamed as you are.
But it was in high quality HD, like remaster, whatever.
On YouTube, like it deserved.
Yes, you did.
But before we talk about Pinocchio's Revenge, what have you vengefully been up to since last we talked?
Vengefully been up to. It's been a pretty just quiet week. I've had to slow down from work, which is actually kind of nice. I've had some chance to catch up on errands and chores, and I've been getting a new passport because I'm going to be going to Scotland soon for my honeymoon.
Right.
I had a name change since my last passport, so I had to update it, and it's a whole process and getting a court.
Sure.
So that whole thing. But yeah, then I actually went outside this past weekend for the first time in a long time and went to the farmer's market with my wife. And it was kind of a disappointment, but it was right by Lake Eola, which is like the center of Orlando downtown. And so we just took a nice walk around the lake, and it was just very relaxing.
Lovely. And this is like one of the few times a year in Florida where you can go do those things.
Exactly.
Outside.
It was like 68 degrees. It was perfect. 68 degrees Fahrenheit for you folks across the pond, but it was perfect, like homeostasis temperature. Had a nice dinner with my lovely mother over the week, and then ended the week I went to Costco, which was always, an experience.
Oh man. Are you guys members?
We're members, and I usually go there for the two main things that save me so much money, which is toilet paper and paper towels. Because I don't use paper towels like crazy. I try to use them conservatively, but for some things, for some cleanups and for some cooking things, I kind of need them. Unless I want to go the whole, the rag route, which like I think you and Patrick both do, which is totally more conservational. But I have rags around for the things. But even so, it lasts me forever. I buy one package of paper towels, lasts me for months. But then when the paper towels and toilet paper runs out, you got to go back to Costco. And it was a madhouse like it always is. And there were like Karens yelling at me. No offense, Mom. My mom's name is Karen, but the other kind of Karens. And it was a lot. But I did it. I had a good, productive week. I felt like a real human again going out into the world. So it was kind of nice.
Ann and I have become Costco pros, but it's because we've become very strategic about when we go. So I have off every other Wednesday with my current schedule.
Yeah.
And so every other Wednesday after we drop off the kids, we go and we get there right when they open. We're in and out 45 minutes before the crowd show up. We go in with a plan. We go in with a list. We have vague ideas where things are now. We get the hell out.
See, I only go there a few months. So when I go, it was 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. So it was a pretty good time to go. And it was definitely not the madhouse that I'm used to, like 5 p.m. or something, or a weekend. But it was still, there's just still always people in these Costco. There's one like on my side of town. There's one by more near International Drive on where all the tourists are. That one's nuts. But this one, it was still just too many people. And they're all just rushing places and no one knows where they're going. They sit in the middle of the aisle. And it's just like, oh, human beings are, this is why I don't go outside.
This is why I hate everybody.
Everyone's terrible.
Every one of those bastards. I just go for the hot dogs.
I got the hot dog at the end, of course. $1.50. For people don't know, Costco, if you don't have it where you live, it's a big box store, kind of like a Sam's Club.
True. Our UK listeners may not know.
I think it is international, but it's basically like originally these were made for companies, I think, to buy things in bulk.
Like restaurant supply kind of stuff.
Yeah, and now it's kind of the consumer. You pay a membership fee once a year and you get big things in bulk, so you can kind of save money if you use that thing a lot. And so you get some food products that can last, and toilet paper, paper towels, anything you want there. It's huge now. It's just gigantic. But anyway, Steve, what have you been up to this past couple of weeks?
Well, it's been cold here. It snowed and then it got real cold, and we had a whole week where it was like in the 15 to 25 range.
Oh, wow.
Just cold, snow on the ground, ice on the ground. No fun to drive in. A lot of slow commutes. But on the weekend, this last weekend, we get to have a little bit of fun. Saturday evening, we had people over and had a game night and got to see somebody you met before, though you may not remember them. And that is a guy named Zach.
I think so.
Who came to our wedding.
Oh, wow.
With my cousin. And he's a real good guy, good friend. We only get to see him, last time we saw him was 6 years ago.
Damn.
Or maybe almost 7 years ago. And him and his now wife came, and we had to play games, and Christian and Sarah came over, and my cousin came over. We got a good time. And then Sunday we had more family time and kind of got caught up on stuff around the house. Then Monday for Martin Luther King Day, I had off, which was nice. Felt like an extra free weekend. And we took the day and took in some culture with the kids and used our new membership, to the Carnegie Museum.
Oh, what's at the Carnegie Museum?
History.
Oh, natural history. Okay.
Yeah. So Natural History Museum, it's actually 4 museums we get access to. Natural history, art, the Andy Warhol Museum, and the Science Museum.
Very cool. And
so we went down the natural history. We thought that's the one the kids would like the most because there's dinosaur skeletons, that kind of stuff. So we went down to the museum and then had lunch with my mom, and it was just a lovely kind of weekend.
Yeah.
And then I've worked through the week since then.
Well, we both have had pretty social times since the last we've met up.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm social that. I'm ready to get through the next 2 days of work and then have a day off.
Hell yeah. Well, I guess that brings us to nerdy news.
Nerdy news.
It's time for Nerdy News.
So as we started the podcast, I actually realized oh crap, I didn't prep a news story. But then I realized I had a few in my brain that I was just thinking about because it's the stuff that Steven loves, paranormal news.
Oh yeah, hit me with that.
So basically, this verges on the cool stuff that's actually interesting to a lot of people in the news right now, which is there was a guy recently who came out. It was like a couple months ago. He went to come in front of Congress. He used to work for the UAP program for the United States that was actually funded by our government to the study of unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UFOs as they used to be called.
Yeah.
And so he since has left the organization, and he now testified in front of Congress saying that he had found from all these other people all this evidence that they've been covering things up for a very long time, things that people have been saying for years and decades, but that he had, real testimony from real people, and that this is way too much. That's not safe for them to be keeping secret any longer because people need to know about it. And he said a lot of things and went off a lot of deep ends, but then he's also just said, I'm not even claiming these are aliens. I'm saying we don't know what they are. And that should be troubling in itself. And so he said, but the people were convinced that they weren't foreign governments. The people he talked to, they don't even know what they are. And so recently they actually have had, I think, 1 or 2 closed door meetings with congressmen who have been on a special committee now to go over the evidence and call in witnesses from these 3-letter organizations like the CIA, the FBI, and pull them into these closed door meetings to examine them and ask them questions about this guy, David Grush's testimony about what he said in public in Congress. And so I watched footage of the Congress people coming out of the meeting and going in front of the press, and they couldn't say a lot. But what the common thing they all said was when they came out was, we're finding out that none of his testimony has been shown to be not true yet. They said, what we're really finding out is that whatever information there is very compartmentalized, so much so that one person only knows so much, and then there's a whole other organization that only knows a little bit more, and they don't know yet who has all the information that has disseminated across these organizations. And so they're actually finding out that some of this conspiracy crap is kind of true, and that there's some kind of truth to this, and what the truth of it has been spread out to where no one person really knows everything. And so they're trying to find, and this is things they're saying publicly as congressmen on live television. Like, it's not like some kind of conspiracy theorist anymore, which is, I think, pretty fascinating. And so I don't know what it means, but it's cool. I mean,
it kind of makes sense that everything is so siloed.
Siloed. That's the word they use. Yeah.
That even within intergovernment, like, in the same government, agencies had siloed things from each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And here's the thing, in those sort of agencies, there's, 20, 30 years, these old school guys who were there, but then once they're gone, if they were that link, if they were that guy that knew,
they're dead or gone.
They're dead, or they're gone, or they're long retired.
And they said the word they use a lot too is overclassification problem, is that things are so classified that it's hard to even find out the smallest bits of information that may show that this thing is not true, but it's so classified and probably overclassified for information that doesn't really need to be classified, that it makes things more confusing and more mysterious than they actually have to be. But you're right. Like, say the Roswell incident, say it really happened. You have one person that's in charge of transportation of these objects or debris. And so they only know about the transportation aspect, and they're classified with that. There's somebody else who does the study of the actual of things, and they're classified with that information. They don't know where it came from. And so, like, it's just all disseminated that way. And I thought that was fascinating because it was the first time I've seen several Congress people who I've seen talking on TV about other things, like regular day-to-day things in Congress, and then they're talking about this just as seriously. None of them had a smile on their face. They all actually seemed kind of ashen and kind of like concerned. And they kept saying they couldn't say everything that was said in the meeting, but the common thread was, this is concerning. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. I thought this guy was going to be another bullshit artist, but he's really kind of not, which is kind of cool.
I don't know, but I think there's a big difference between, we haven't found anything he said to be untrue with the same as we believe him. Those are not the same statement.
Yeah, well, there is 2 people that came out and talked that the one particular thing that they kept asking about was, in his testimony originally, he talked that we have biologic material or biological material of some sort of these non-human entities. He didn't say they were aliens. He's like, I just don't know. We do have something of those lines. And they kept asking the Congress people about that particular aspect because that's the most, on the nose kind of thing, that this isn't human. And they said, we can't comment on that just yet. And I was like, what? Just say it's bullshit. Instead they were like, we can't comment. And I was like, whoa, that's kind of, so, but you're right. It's not confirming anything. It's just kind of fun that it's not been
right. It's not the same. It's not the same statement, though. It kind of feels the same.
Yeah. But it just feels like it's cool that it hasn't been completely disproven yet. But I hope some kind of truth is gained and we learn something, but maybe we will. Who knows? So there's our preternatural penetration, as our old segment was called.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Well, that takes us into our main segment where we're going to talk about Pinocchio's revenge.
Revenge!
It's a dark and stormy night. A police officer nearly hits a car. It belongs to a creepy guy who's burying a boy's body in the woods. The police investigates and confronts the man, seemingly arresting him, though they don't show it for some reason. They think they found another body, but it's a puppet.
What?
We meet the creepy guy's lawyer who argues with the judge to really no particular end and then goes home and looks at disturbing crime scene photos in front of her child. Her daughter walks in on her. She's some kind of genius sort of child, but she's hated by her classmates for being smart. But then she also bites a girl at one point, makes her bleed. She's seeing a therapist. Well, it turns out she might not be okay. Mom lawyer goes to visit creepy guy who, despite everything against him, she for some reason believes there's a chance that he's covering for someone else for some reason. The lawyer lady is unable to get the creepy guy off, and he fries in the electric chair. Mom lawyer is left with the creepy doll and gives it to messed up daughter for her birthday because the real thing didn't come or something like that. She loves her gift that her mom gave her, and then her mom lawyer and her boyfriend make loud sex, and it angers the girl and scars her a little bit. And then the au pair, who has very little bearing on this story, gets spied on by the pervy doll.
As she's taking a shower, yep.
More and more kind of creepy things start happening. Lawyer mom gets assigned a new creepy guy, and he's like, the TV told me to torture and kill this guy. And it's really a non sequitur. The puppet then starts talking to the girl and threatens like, hey, that lawyer, I can't even do the voice. It was so high. That lawyer guy, your mom's boyfriend's the problem. We got to get rid of him. And Pinocchio makes an accident happen. And the boyfriend falls down the stairs and nearly dies. But the little girl is suspect number one. Her therapist tries to get her to talk about it. Pinocchio finally talks to her, and she yells at him, only making herself look more insane. Pinocchio convinces a girl to cut his strings because he can make everything better, but suddenly he's free. The strings were the thing holding him back, and he goes and he seeks his revenge, and he's going to go finish the boyfriend off once and for all. He heads to the hospital, and the little girl follows him. Pinocchio kills the guy, and then she's the suspect again. And the shrink tells mom lawyer, and mom lawyer won't believe it. Mom lawyer goes to a priest that she talked to one time before, and once again has very little bearing on anything, that she has a theory that all these people were hearing a demon, I guess, like the guy from the TV, and it might just be inside anything, like a doll or a puppet.
Boom, boom, boom.
She heads home, and the au pair with random accents, I really started noticing it, is tripped and then beaten to death with a fire poker by an unseen short attacker. Was it the little girl? No, it's Pinocchio. Mom lawyer heads home. She's ambushed. She thinks by the little girl who's holding the poker, but the little girl's like, I got it away from him. And finally, Pinocchio reveals himself that he's alive. He jumps on her shoulder with a knife, and she fights Pinocchio off while trying to find her daughter. She ends up throwing Pinocchio through a glass table, only to reveal it was actually her daughter. The implication being that the creepy guy killed his kid while it was possessed by the puppet. But Zoe, little girl, doesn't die, but she gets put in a padded room. Lawyer mom visits her. And then my last line of this review is, what the fuck just happened? The movie just ended with them in a padded room, and then the doll's eyes and credits. I wrote down, what the fuck happened? That is how this movie ended. And that was Pinocchio's revenge.
What was he revenging on? We'll never know.
Yeah, we don't know what wrong was done to him.
That all humans must die.
And then to say it's like a demon, that's what they do. I'm like, what?
So I actually had a very different
revenge.
I had a different take on this movie.
Oh my God. What could there be?
I actually really kind of liked it because so I was very surprised that I did, because, well, first of all, a lot of movies follow this formula now, which is there's a mom and a kid, and she thinks the kid is doing bad things. The kid always, proclaims they're not doing it. The ghost is, or the boogeyman, or
whatever,
the Babadook or something. It's always a mom and a kid. There's no dad in the picture, or there's a boyfriend. There's always a psychiatrist, or there's a cult person that she goes to for help, which is exactly what happens in this movie. But this is really early on, before a lot of those movies came out. So I don't know if this is like one of the first that had that exact same formula that so many movies have now, but this one did it. But what I like about this one is that you really don't know if it wasn't the girl the whole time. And the big thing that hints at that is that twice in the movie, they do a side reference. I think the shrink mostly does it, I think twice, mentioning that her dad abused her real dad, who we never see. We hear him on the phone. And so we don't know if it was sexual abuse or physical abuse or something. And that might have traumatized that girl to make it so she's kind of just disturbed and she's violent. And so my take from this is that Pinocchio never did anything. There's no demon. I think it's just this girl is very disturbed, and that made it the whole movie more disturbing for me in that framing. I don't know. Did you get any of that from this movie?
I mean, so here's what I'll say is that this feels like what they were kind of trying to do, but did a less subtle job of in Child's Play.
Yes.
Which came out years before at this point, in that if you were seeing Child's Play for the first time, I think that what they're aiming for was you didn't know if it was the kid or the doll.
Right.
Once you get into the movie, though, it literally opens with a guy chanting and using magic and touching a doll. Like, that's what, like, there's no surprise. It is the doll. Everyone knows the doll. Here they played it much more subtly, where they framed all those low shots and the violence. They showed that she was capable of violence. She was seeing a therapist. Like, there were all these things. They did it much more subtly. But once it came to the doll, I didn't really think it was that subtle. Other people physically interacted with this doll.
Well, she only reacts with the doll and interacts with it when she's already been hit in the head, the mom.
Okay, so you're saying she's hallucinating the doll?
And that's what the therapist says at the end. He's like,
scene where the little girl has the poker and she says she took it away from her, and then doesn't she get ambushed like from behind at that point?
Well, the only time she comes in the house, she gets hit in the head, and you see the girl with the poker, and the girl says, "Oh, it was the doll. I just took it from him." And then only after that moment does she see the doll attacking her. And then she literally throws the doll off her into the table, and she sees that it's actually her daughter she just threw.
Okay.
So my take from that was
I'm
that
really fast forwarding through that part of the film right now, just so I can see, make sure I'm not.
And the doctor even says that later. He's like, "Oh, did you see the doll before you hit your head?" And she's like, "Well, no, but I know what I saw." She keeps saying, "I know what I saw."
Okay, that's fair.
So it was interesting in that regard. And you don't see who hits the au pair. You don't see who hits her.
True.
You don't see who pushes the guy down the stairs. I think that was very purposeful. And even when they watch the video later of the doll talking to her, the therapist is looking at the video and the doll's not talking at all. It's just sitting there.
The whole beginning of the movie is just a creepy circumstance, like a coincidence.
Like that, basically the father, the original father and stuff.
Yeah. Like the doll was part of that, and it just became a focal point for this craziness.
Yeah, I think that's the only part that kind of weak, is the fact that the doll then the doll isn't really that important. And why was it just a coincidence that guy's kid also was killing people? So yeah, that part doesn't really connect unless it actually is paranormal or a demon or something. So,
and that's sort of how I read the end of the movie,
that she was possessed.
Yeah.
That it was her the whole time, but that she was possessed.
Maybe. God damn it. Now you got me thinking about this movie too. I'm thinking too much about Pinocchio's revenge, I think is what's happening.
But what's funny is that you mentioned Child's Play, because in the Wikipedia article for this movie, they do mention that this movie was closer to Don Mancini's original intent for Child's Play. He wanted to be more like this, where it was very ambiguous as to what was actually happening, but then they kind of played more into the magic and the chanting and, the doll actually being possessed. Whereas this one, kind of don't know. It's up in the air.
Man, now we're watching. I guess it's possible. But yeah, I think you would have to write off the opening of the film to make it make sense.
That's a good point, though. The opening of the film kind of makes it like, well, why is it such a coincidence that this girl also gets this doll? It's just two disturbed kids,
But I admit, maybe that's the weak point in both Child's Play and this, is that opening scene.
Yeah, the chanting and all that.
The movie. Like, it just messes it up, because otherwise, you're right, it could go either way.
But then when you add that part in,
scenes ruined the possibility.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, there's just like Child's Play in that regard. All right.
That's true. All right. So what'd you like about the movie, Steve?
So there are a few gems to pull out here. There are a couple genuinely good actors in here who have gone on to have very big careers. Larry Cedar, who played the prosecuting attorney, he's been in something that you've seen if you've watched American television. He has 1 and 2 and 3 episode appearances on dozens of shows, and he has 205 IMDb credits.
Damn.
Same goes for Ron Canada, who played, who did he play in this movie? Barry.
Yeah, mom's friend at the work or police station or wherever it was.
He is an actor that you recognize from something if you've watched American movies or TV in the last 20 to 30 years. He has 155 IMDb credits.
Yeah.
And then Aaron Lustig, who played the doctor, the psychiatrist, he is a character actor who has been in so many things. It's 1 episode appearances, 3 episode arc sort of stuff for years, 3 decades, and he has 139.
That was literally one of my points that I put down. I wrote down their names too, because I was like, all 3 of those actors, I was like, you've seen them before in something.
And you could feel that they were the best part of the movie with the scenes they were in.
Because they're veterans, like they've been in everything.
Yeah, so but Larry Cedar as the prosecutor, like he was the best part of the scenes he was in.
And that Aaron Lustig guy, he was the psychiatrist in Edward Scissorhands.
Was he really? I didn't put that together.
There you go. He's good at playing a psychiatrist.
So a few good actors in there. And I did like that opposed to Child's Play, which is clearly riding the coattails of. I liked some of the subtler aspects of it.
Yeah.
I liked that they tried to keep it in that realm of possibility. I don't think they succeeded, but I liked that it was subtler.
Yeah.
And now, mind you, that subtlety was traded for one of my issues with the movie, which was pacing. Because because they kept it so subtle, they weren't able to like escalate the movie the way I would say a typical horror film would.
Not enough like of a...
The breaks were too long between the thrilling moments.
Like long gratuitous shower and sex scenes.
Yeah, like you can't let the audience rest that long.
Yeah.
In a horror film. And here's something I did like. The out of nowhere, out of place gore shot of her getting stabbed through the hand.
Yeah, through the door.
Yeah, through the door. I was like, where did that come from? This is like a direct to DVD release or VHS TV release sort of deal. Where did this sudden one gore shot come from?
All their money right there.
All their money. It was a good effect. It was a genuinely good effect.
It was. The knife went right through her hand.
It was a great practical. So yeah, that felt weird, but it was great. It was one of my favorite parts of the movie. But otherwise, this movie struggled in a lot of ways. The limitations of the puppet were very clear in what it could and could not do.
Like when he was trying to talk, it just didn't come out very well. It wasn't even matching the mouth flap of what he was saying. Like that kind of sucked.
Yeah. In one of the shots where it's the mom and him wrestling with him over her shoulder, you can see a cable coming down off her body and running away from her body.
Really?
Yeah, that they like wrapped in fabric to try to like match the carpet or match the paint behind. Just a cable wrapped in something. I had to rewind it. I was like, hold on a second. And that was even on the shitty YouTube version. I was able to see it. So you can definitely see it. Yeah, the limitations of the puppets were rough. The subtlety made it a little slow for me. But it's certainly over the top. Like, no doubt about that. It's a little crazy.
Yeah, I think like I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected for some of the reasons you mentioned. Like the actors were decent actors. Like it wasn't like just all B-movie, like straight to video actors. Like strangely enough, the lead actress I'd never seen in anything before. But everyone else.
I looked up the little girl actress and she only had, I think, 3 or 4 credits, but I was like, she was good.
Yeah, she was like most of the movie. She had a lot of dialogue and action. Like she was in a lot of it. She did a great job.
She did a really good job.
I think the gratuitous nudity scenes were like really reminded me of the 90s, because I was just like, so many R-rated movies in the 90s just had like, they had to have a mandatory sex scene for, and like you said, there's bad pacing, because even like movies like Halloween and stuff like from the 70s, there was sex scenes, but then they were intercut with tension because you would see the character coming towards them as they're trying to make out or take their tops off or whatever. Mm-hmm. Whereas this one, they just played out a whole sex scene and didn't cut away to anything. It's just like, what? Why? What do we?
No, they did cut away. They cut away to the little girl listening.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, that's the end of it. And then they cut back to the sex scene, and I was like, God, that
the slow motion goes right back to it. And then the slow pan down the woman, the au pair taking a shower, and it's just like, come on, like it's not necessary.
My other favorite part, I thought she was supposed to be French. Like that's what I read early, and then there was a series of lines later in the film that she had. She only had like 7 lines, but later in the movie, a series of lines where I went, she just said that with a British accent, and then she put a G on the end of that K sound, which is like a German thing. And then she ended with a Spanish accent. What just happened?
Yeah. And she also was purposely, you could tell she was like, she learned a little bit of coaching and then stopped because she was cutting off all her H's. She's like, how are you doing today? Like, hello. Like, it's just like, and she was like very purposely doing it. So it sounded so fake. And I was like, what? I could not tell what accent she was trying to go for.
Yeah. At one point she did the German ink.
Yeah. Well, like, what?
What are you thinking?
And then she said, like, INS is coming. I have to go to an INS meeting or something because they're going to, renew my visa. Like, what country? Tell us, what country are you from?
Tell us any country, please.
And then the music was really kind of distracting, unfortunately. That was the same problem we had with, like, other movies we've watched. A lot of MIDI cheap music, from, like, the keyboard.
Yeah, just one guy in a room. It's dark.
But overall, I'm going to say I recommend this as one of those silly kind of 90s horror movie watch. Wasn't that bad.
Yeah. And the other good news is it wasn't that long either. I think it was an hour and 35 or an hour and 38.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It was an interesting watch. It wasn't terrible. It
was not the Nutcracker.
No, God.
Like I did have to do this in 2 sittings, but Nutcracker I think I did 4.
Nutcracker was rough.
4 sittings. So maybe that's how I'm going to measure the badness of movies from now on.
How many sittings?
How many sittings it took me to get through them.
Well, wait till the audience hears.
This was a 2-sitting movie.
What we're watching next time, we'll see how many sittings that takes.
It's going to be right up our alley, dude. I can feel it.
Well, some trivia for this movie.
Yeah.
So this was the film debut of Vern Troyer, otherwise known as Mini-Me from the Austin Powers movies.
He was in the Pinocchio?
He was the Pinocchio.
Oh, good for Vern Troyer.
This is his first movie.
Vern Troyer.
This was written and filmed under the title The Pinocchio Syndrome, but for unknown reasons, Trimark, the company that produced it, retitled it Pinocchio's Revenge when the film was completed. It was the director's intention to name it the Pinocchio Syndrome, which would make a little more sense with the story.
Even that, though, right? But even that, though, I think tells us something about the intent of the ending. Then,
she had a Pinocchio syndrome. Yeah.
So even that implies that it definitely was the little girl then.
Right. So that's the director intending it to be that. Makes it a little more. Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. Todd Allen, the actor who played David, or the boyfriend of the lawyer mom, he's actually the husband of that woman who played the mom. And I couldn't find anywhere online, because they're not the biggest of actors, if they got married after this movie or if they were already married when they got cast in it. But either way, they are together. So that sex scene did something for him, I guess, because they're married
good for them.
to this day. And he's actually in some shows now. I didn't recognize him now, but if you look at him if you look at him now more modernly, he's more familiar looking. He's been in like a cowboy show and stuff like that. He's kind of a little more recognizable. But yeah, the only other note I had was that this was closer to what Don Mancini's original intent for Child's Play was, but that I couldn't find the source for that on Wikipedia where they got that information from. But yeah, so that was Pinocchio's Revenge. Steve, I hear you got a bit for us.
That's right. I've got a little segment I'm going to call Painful Playthings.
Ooh.
I've done that before because I think I did it maybe when we reviewed Child's Play 3, but over the years, there's been many, many dangerous children's toys for one reason or another. And most of the time they're identified after it's too late, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to talk about a few of those toys. So the first one I could find was the branded CSI fingerprint kit.
Oh, this sounds familiar.
Fun for the little murder investigator in your house. Well, the Chinese factory that they use for production cut costs by cutting the fingerprint dust with something called tremolite, which is one of the worst forms of asbestos and a terrible carcinogen.
Oh, God.
But that's how they saved money.
Oh.
The next one I found was clackers. See, we've all seen them. They're on a rope with two balls on the end. They clack them up and down. You get them as crappy carnival toys on those sticks.
Yeah.
Well, the reason they're on those sticks is because back in the 70s, when they first came out, they were on a big length of rope, and these were acrylic balls, which when slapped together made that pleasant sound. But when kids took them too hard, like, you know, most kids do, they would shatter into a million little sharp shards
Oh, God.
and go flying into faces and eyes all across the country.
Of course they would.
So yeah, they blinded and cut up a bunch of kids. I had to get them out of there. But that's why the clackers that we have now are on those fixed arms. Like, because the old ones on ropes would like break and hurt people.
It's like lawn darts.
All right, now this is so I've got, this is my third one, my last one, and this one's my favorite. So Disney released in 1961 The Absent-Minded Professor. And Flubber was a huge hit. And Disney loves making that toy money. So they contracted a toy company to make Flubber for them.
I remember that.
And it was it was sort of had silvery flecks in it, and it was a gooey substance that you could bounce as a ball, you know, that sort of thing. There've been many things like it since. So there was a sequel on the way. Flubber hits the shelves. And there was one major difference that really set it apart, and it's that Flubber gave children rashes and sore throats. All across the country came public reports of children with terrible rashes and sore, swollen throats, and the common link they kept finding over and over again was Flubber.
Oh, God.
Which was almost identical to other products on the market, but for whatever reason was giving kids rashes. So there was public outrage. The product was pulled from the shelves, and the company was left. There multiple numbers were quoted, but multiple tons of Flubber seems to be the consensus.
Well, did they figure out why that was giving them rashes?
No, I could not find them ever figuring out why. They just pulled it and got rid of it. And it was in a time when, like, you know, companies could still do that stuff. So they tried to dump it at a public landfill, but local authorities said, nah, we don't want tons and tons of this stuff in our landfill. So then they tried to burn it, and authorities said, nah, because it let off a terrible acrid black smoke that filled the sky.
Probably would kill people.
So finally, they took the next logical step. And next to their headquarters, they dug a giant hole. And they dumped in all the Flubber. They flattened it out, and then they were putting in a new parking lot. So they paved the parking lot over.
Oh my God!
This Flubber that they couldn't get rid of.
So it's the Flubber lot now.
Yeah. So the company in question was the Hassenfeld brothers, better known as Hasbro.
Mm-hmm.
They still have that building, and it is reported by employees, that on hot summer days, you can see Flubber come up through the pavement, bubble up through the pavement.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if there's any validity to that, but those are the reports.
That's a fun urban legend.
Yeah, Flubber gave kids rashes and sore throats. That is confirmed by public officials. That happened.
That's how we create the Toxic Avenger right there.
That right there.
Wow.
Well, I think that I'm going to hand it over to you for some radical recommends.
Yeah.
Hi, recommend.
If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
What do you recommend I do?
I recommend pleasant.
So a couple of recommendations here, a couple of quick ones. One, if you're like me, you might have been suffering from insomnia for a long, long time. And not typical insomnia, but just my body seems to always want to push me towards staying up till 5 o'clock in the morning and then getting up late. Or nowadays I have to work, so I just stay up till 5 and get up at 8 in the morning, get 3 hours of sleep, and it sucks. So I
can confirm German has always been a night owl.
Yes.
Can confirm.
And it didn't help that my last few years at CNN, they put me on overnights. And then once I moved to Orlando, I was dating someone who worked overnights. So I stayed on her schedule. And so for years there, just kind of reinforced this behavior. And it's not good with my relationship now with my wife. And it's just tough. And I'm finding out what's helping me. It might help you, is I'm just forcing myself to get up. I don't have to force myself. It's kind of just working now on its own. I'm getting up at 5:30 every morning. So when I get up at 5:30 every morning, not only am I getting some time, like my body still feels like it's nighttime a little bit. So it kind of likes that. But then I'm so tired by a regular bedtime at 10:30 that my body's like, go to bed. And so I'm happy going to bed at like 10:30 because I get up at 5:30 and so early, and it's kind of like a mixture of all worlds. And it's the first thing that seems to be working in like years of me trying different things. And so if you're out there, you're like me, you can't go to bed and you love staying up late for some reason, your body is always awake, try it out. Just first force yourself for a while, and then eventually now I'm waking up at 5:22 every morning and just staying up. I don't know why. Nice. 5:22, but I am.
I don't really have a problem. I mean, I used to be a real night owl type too, but now that I'm on this schedule where I'm in, it's, I'm up at 6:30 5 days a week. It just
Oh yeah, and when work forces you to do it, you kind of have to.
11:30 is my standard. It's right where I just go. Bleh.
I'm just kind of like, hey, it's bedtime.
By then I'm in bed. I'm watching something. Like my blanket. Like I'm not packing it in at 11:30. I'm done.
Yeah, it works. You say get that schedule, and eventually it'll work. Just got to push yourself into it. And then the other short recommendation is a show I've probably recommended before, but Queer Eye is a wonderful show on Netflix, and it's back for season 8. I couldn't believe it was 8 seasons already. And I've watched the first couple episodes, and it's just as good, if not better, as it's always been. It's just always heartwarming and something nice and pleasant to watch with all the craziness going on in our world right now. Can't recommend enough. Great fashion tips, great life tips. Every episode makes you cry, happy tears, because it's about changing their lives, not just about changing their looks and stuff. And they do men, women as the makeover of the episode. They make over their life, not just their look. And it's great. So check out Queer Eye if you haven't rewatched it. Have you seen any episodes yet, Steve?
No.
Oh, you and Anna should watch a couple episodes together. I think you'd love it.
Maybe, I don't know. It's not trashy enough for us, though. It's too wholesome.
That's the thing. We watch our trash too. We love watching some trash. But this is different than the trash. It's not like a reality show. It's more like almost like a mini documentary, but heartwarming and lovely and uplifting. And then you can go back to your trash.
See, I'm not down about that trash.
That brings us to some trailer reviews.
Well, this week I'm bringing the full trailer. We've seen a teaser before, but the full trailer for the new Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix has emerged. And even as I haven't watched the Nickelodeon show. I'm somewhat familiar with it. This already looks just hides and tails better.
Oh, yeah.
Than the thing that happened before. I hesitate to even call it a movie.
It looks like an instance of like they basically did what I want other video game and cartoon movies to do that turn into live action, is just take exactly what everyone loves and recreate that in live action. Stop putting this different interpretation on it, changing the story, changing the casting, make it look and sound and be the video game or the animated show that everyone loves, and they'll love yours too. It seems like that's what they're doing with this one. It looks just like the cartoon show. The casting looks really good. It sounds, everything just like it looks like it's a perfect.
It's very much the same. I think I noticed it the most with the brother character.
Yeah.
Like, he clearly is acting bigger and more animated and like his character.
He even sounds like him. Yeah, I agree.
Right. He is doing it on purpose. So
Has to
good
be.
for them. They finally made some good choices. And I'm excited for this. I had literally turned to Anna. I said, this is the first thing since Stranger Things was done that I've thought, man, maybe we should resubscribe to Netflix for a month.
Hey, there you go. That's their goal, is
This
make
is the
content.
first thing. So I think that's the best compliment I can give Netflix.
Absolutely. Because did you watch the original show?
I've watched some of it, but no, it's been recommended to me by many, many people. I've started it 2 or 3 times, made it maybe as far as episode 7 or 8 each time. I just can't get into it.
Yeah, I'm not head over heels for it like a lot of people are. I watched the
Some
whole
people, they're just sucking that Avatar.
Oh, they love it
nonstop.
And I get it. It's
like,
cool concept.
Give me that wind and fire or whatever in my face. Like,
it's definitely for young adults, but it's got things adults can appreciate too. And I watched all of it, and then I watched some of Korra, Legend of Korra, which is like a sequel series. But it's not something I go crazy about. But I think this looks like a lot of fun. And looks really expensive, so there is that.
All right, so I'm going to give this one. Raul Julia's sitting on the couch reading the paper, and Gary Busey just quietly opens the door. He's got something under his arm. He sneaks in. He's trying to be real quiet. He closes the door real quiet and latches it and tries to make it up the stairs. Raul Julia is heard in this whole day. Gary, he's like, oh God, sorry, I thought you were asleep. What do you have under your arm? It's nothing. I gotta go to my room. And he storms up the stairs. Rock's, God damn it. He gets up and he folds his paper and he walks up the stairs. He goes, Gary, I'm coming to your room. And he opens the door. And Gary's standing there in a robe. He goes, I'm an airbender. And he has just shoplifted 60 fans that he has strung together, just daisy chained with the most dangerous concoction of extension cables and multi-plugs that you can imagine. And he has one that's saying, he goes, I am the wind, and he plugs it in and all these fans turn on and the house fuse blows and the lights go out. I'm going to switch the fuse. When I come up, all these fans better be gone. And he turns away and walks downstairs and goes to the basement.
How are they still roommates? No one knows.
I feel like they signed a contract of some sort
with the devil.
That's right. So that's what I'm going to give this movie.
It's a great review. That's a great review of this trailer.
I don't care who understands it.
My review of this trailer makes just as much sense. So,
if not more.
Somehow Gary and Raul Julia are having a very peaceful evening watching television, some trashy TV, if you will. And Raul's even thinking to himself, wow, this is, the most peaceful it's been in this house for a while. Gary seems captivated on the TV. And all of a sudden, miraculously, a magical poof, this old gnarled man appears in the middle of their room with a robe on. And he says, do not be alarmed, but you must know the reason you have brought yourselves together is because your combined forces of chaos and order would come together to create the avatar that will save the world. What are you talking about? And then Raul Julia's like, no, please. And all of a sudden, the two of them meld together into this one perfect being that saves the entire universe.
Like the end of the Dark Crystal. Yes. I love it.
Really, they were destined to be together because they had to save the universe with their combined energies.
That's why they've had an apartment together this whole time.
Exactly.
They knew they had to be together. We finally solved it.
It makes
all
sense.
These episodes later.
It was meant to be.
I guess we can go back to our 6-level rating system now, huh?
Yeah, I guess we're done. There you go.
We found the end, folks.
Well, I guess that brings us to the end of the episode. Steve, what are we going to be talking about next time?
Well, in honor of Madam Web, which from the trailer looks like it's loosely about time travel.
The character has a power of seeing the future, a slight bit in the future, and then she can predict things, I guess. Yeah.
I guess. So we decided to look at another movie that's definitely about time travel to wet our whistles. And that's the 1993 Mark Hamill classic, Time Runner. So we're going to review Time Runner.
So classic that neither of us had heard of it before.
But it sure looks right up our alley.
And you can watch it right on YouTube for $2.99.
That's right. Well, you guys do that. Spend your money. I'll see if a store has it. And until next time, come on back and be our nerdy audience. We'll keep on coming back and being your nerdy co-hosts. Thanks again, Internet.
Stay nerdy, my friends.
Thanks for listening to A Play on Nerds. Feel free to email feedback at aplayonnerds.com with all your questions or comments.
Shoot us a message on Facebook or Twitter and earn yourself a sweet shout out on the show.
Review us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts so even more nerds can find us. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, we aren't picky.
Check out our entire back catalog and other offerings at aplayonnerds.com.
And how?